Hello everyone, welcome to our Byte series presented by TecMan. I am your host today and my name is Mahad Rashid Adan, and today's session is about ServiceNow IT service asset management, and today's speaker is on behalf it's Adan and Mahad Rashid, and they both are very competent and certified ServiceNow consultant as well as trainees by the TechMan Academy. And also you can watch us our session live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Dailymotion. And let's talk about our strategic partners today. We are having collaborating with Architect Solution, OGMC, and OZMark. And let me give you the overview of upcoming sessions we have following this month and the next month. The first one we will be having on August 21 about the introduction of HRST. Then we have our next session on 4th September about introduction on GRC, and 18th of September we have been introduction of SPM, and 2nd of October we having introduction on CSM, and the last one is on 16th of October on introduction of APM. And all these sessions are free. That is, you can watch and you can look into our official website, techman.academy. And about today's session, there will be two phases, and the first phases will be introduction from Adan John, and the second phase will be having question session with Mahad Rashid, and also you can write your questions in the YouTube section. And over to you, Adan.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm Adan Saqib, and today here at TecMan, we're going to be discussing IT asset management. Okay, so the agenda for today is firstly, we're going to discuss what exactly is IT asset management and what are assets, what are CIs, and how IT asset management is delivered inside ServiceNow. After that, we're going to discuss the key concepts of ServiceNow ITAM and some of the core modules, and in the end we're going to have a Q&A sessions. So let's start with something basic. What exactly is an asset? Think of an asset as anything your organization owns or pays for or basically responsible for. That could be anything ranging from a laptop on somebody's desk to your company's servers, or it can even be something intangible like software licenses or a cloud subscription. Okay, now the important part is that when we talk about assets in IT, we're not just listing stuff that we have like desktops or servers. We're actually tracking them as a business and financial entity. So an asset record in whichever table, there are many tables classified in ServiceNow regarding assets. So when we take an asset record, it tells us where the asset came from, how much does it cost, what contract it's tied to, or things like how long it's expected to last. And even we look at a financial entity point of view, it can also tell us the depreciation value of that specific asset, which can be configured to your personal needs as well. So why exactly does that matter? Because every asset has a life cycle. You buy it, you use it, you maintain it, and eventually you're going to end up into retiring the asset. So that's the life cycle of an asset. If you're not tracking that journey very closely, you can't answer simple but very critical questions about your organization. So questions like, do we need to replace this equipment, or are we paying for unused licenses? That's actually a very big problem for organizations, paying for unused licenses. For example, when you give different softwares or licenses to employees, and when they leave, if you're not tracking those licenses properly, they're going to go redundant and they're going to just drain your finances. Okay, now one thing that often confuses people when working with ITAM and ITOM is the difference between asset and CI. This is a concept that I even struggle with a lot, differentiating between both of them. So they both represent things in your IT environment, but they exist for different purposes and live in different parts of ServiceNow. So they're more or less the same thing, except for the fact that their core use or their core function is different. So let's look into an asset. Asset is basically all about ownership, cost, and life cycle management. And the data related to that stored inside ServiceNow is think purchase dates, warranties, vendors, depreciation, and disposal dates, etc. So all of this asset data helps us in finance, procurement, and compliance to track the business side of hardware and software assets, either one of them. So let's take an example. Take a laptop as an asset. So it would tell you who the asset is assigned to, who the laptop is assigned to, and how much does it cost, when would it need replacing, and what budget it came from. That's the kind of data that's stored in an asset record. So, but on the other hand, a CI is all about functionality and relationships in your IT environment. It lives inside the CMDB and it stores the technical details instead of what asset stores. CI stores data like IP addresses or operating system versions, dependencies, what services it supports, things like that. Or it also maps the dependencies. So CIs matter when you're troubleshooting or mapping dependencies. That's the main function of CIs that differ from asset. So when we take the example of the same laptop, and when that record of that laptop is stored as a CI, it would tell you what network it's on, what applications it's running, and what would break if that specific asset went offline. So in practice, a single physical device can have both an asset record and a CI record linked together. The asset tells us a financial story, and the CI tells us the operational story of that asset. So, asset management answers who owns and what's the value of that asset, and CMDB answer what does it do and how is it connected to other things. So next we have IT asset management in ServiceNow. Now that we know what an asset is, let's define asset management in ServiceNow and why does it exactly matter. At its core, IT asset management is the process of tracking and managing the financial and lifecycle details of every asset in your organization. So, because of that functionality, it has many uses and many benefits, pros for your organization. Some of which are firstly, it helps you control your costs. It helps you avoid over purchasing and manage depreciation. Also, get the most value out of what you already own through many different features and many different functionalities that ServiceNow ITAM provides. Secondly, it helps you reduce risk. It helps you stay compliant with software licenses, warranties, and regulations, which in turn helps you avoid many drawbacks like fines or reputational damage to your company. It also helps you improve decision making because it has data on when to repair, replace, or relocate assets. So it helps your company's decision makers make appropriate decisions regarding those assets. Now, how is asset management different from inventory tracking? Inventory tracking is simply knowing what you physically have and where is it right now, like counting laptops in a storeroom or tracking stock levels of spare parts. Instead, asset management, on the other hand, is much broader than that. It's not just counting, it's including the financial and contractual context of those assets as well, like the cost, depreciation, and vendor terms, even like lease agreements, and when they're planned to retire or dispose, and the strategies regarding that as well. So Simply put, inventory is just a like snapshot of what is here right now. And asset management, on the other hand, is the full story from purchase to end of life cycle, and including everything in between, all the values and risks and related to that asset. So next we're going to briefly look into what ServiceNow offers, how ServiceNow offers IT asset management, and what kind of packages they have. Usually they provide it in tiered packages, typically starting from standard, then professional and enterprise. Each of their tier package builds on the last one, starting with basic asset tracking and compliance, then adding automation and optimization inside the next tier. And in the top one, they provide you with AI powered analytics and spending management as well. These are some of the modules they give you. So they basically make these in tiers because not your company doesn't need all of the functionalities all at once. So instead of buying the biggest package and letting most of the functionalities go to waste, and it helps you prepare and scale your company with a service now, so it helps you get the best ROI. Also, the pricing of IT asset management isn't made public because it's based on your organization's size and asset volume and your contract terms that you negotiate with ServiceNow. So now that we have an introduction of IT asset management, we're going to look into some key concepts that those are related to ITAM. Firstly, there is asset lifecycle management. When we talk about asset lifecycle in ITAM, we're basically mapping the journey of an asset from the moment it's just an idea and you're planning to buy it to the day it leaves the organization and you retire the asset. So the entire life cycle looks like this. Firstly, the first stage is planning, in which you identify the need of that asset, whether you need it or not. Then comes budgeting, where you basically manage the finances of procuring that asset. Then you look if it's actually aligned with your business goals. Do you need it? Will it help you grow, scale your company, etc.? That's what comes in planning. So after planning comes the procurement stage, which is basically the purchasing or leasing of an asset. Many times you don't actually purchase the asset and you lease it, because some are like large scale assets that you can't exactly buy in one purchase. So leasing also comes inside this category. It helps you capture vendor contracts and details regarding those leases as well. Third stage is deployment. After you actually procure that asset, then comes the deployment stage, where you assign it to a user or a location or a service depending on the asset, and you integrate that asset into your IT environment inside this stage. After that comes usage. After you deploy that asset comes the day-to-day operation of that asset. In this stage, you track the performance, yeah, any incidents and changes related to that asset, and basically also the reporting and performance analytics comes into this stage as well. After that is the maintenance part, where applying updates or repairs or any preventive care to extend the useful life cycle of that specific asset is done in this stage. And in the end, there is removing it from service and securely wiping the data related to that asset from your company's database, and or reselling or recycling that asset as well. So why does all of this managing and tracking the life cycle of an asset actually matter? Because without life cycle tracking, assets get easily lost or underutilized or even replaced too early when they still have some value left to give to your company. So when you track each stage, you can control the cost of those assets by maximizing the asset lifespan, And it also helps you stay compliant, like I mentioned before, with regulations and warranties and contracts. It also helps you support sustainability by reusing those assets or recycling those assets responsibly instead of just disposing them off. So ServiceNow makes this entire process much easier by automating stage transitions through workflows and flow designer and many features, by linking lifecycle events to both the CMDB and financial records of those assets. Okay, next key concept that we're going to talk about is the types of assets that are stored inside ServiceNow. So when we talk about assets in ServiceNow ITAM, we're not just talking about servers and laptops. This actual scope of the assets stored is much wider than that. So firstly, we're going to look into hardware assets. This is the most familiar category. It covers everything from laptops, desktops, and servers to network gear like switches and routers. Basically, anything that's physical and tangible and a part of your IT infrastructure is stored inside hardware related tables inside ServiceNow, which is the name of that table is ALM hardware. ServiceNow provides you with many tables of asset management. And those asset tables have many child tables like ALM hardware, ALM software tables, or ALM cloud management as well. So the next type of asset is software asset. This includes not only installed application, but it's also the licenses and subscriptions of specific softwares your company owns. ITAM helps you track those and how many licenses you own, how many are actually in use, and it helps you compare them to figure out whether you're over or under licensed. The next type of asset is cloud asset or virtual asset. So basically, in today's world, a huge part of our infrastructure is virtual. So this category stores virtual machines like cloud storage and SaaS platform, like ServiceNow itself, it's a SaaS platform. Then there are assets. These are also assets considered to a company, and they need tracking for cost, compliance, and security as well. And finally, even though it's kind of unconventional and rarely done, there are non-IT assets. Some organizations use this platform to manage things like office furniture, vehicles, or lab equipment as well. It's optional, but it shows how much flexible this ServiceNow application actually is and how it can mold into your environment. So by classifying these assets into different categories, you can apply the right processes for compliance checks and other things to each type without mixing them all together. It has different processes for different types of assets, specific processes for those assets. Next, we are going to look into the core modules of ServiceNow ITAM. Firstly, we're going to look into HAM or hardware asset management. So this is all about tracking your physical assets like laptops, desktops, or network gear from the moment you plan to buy them until, like I said, they're retired or disposed of. It tracks everything from that point to the end point and everything in between. So ham in ServiceNow doesn't just actually keeps a static list, it actively and dynamically manages the assets. That means it records when it's purchased, who it's assigned to, and who when it's located, and automatically changes that information as the asset is relocated or given to someone else or disposed of. Anything that happens, it can dynamically access that information. So another key point regarding ham is ham integrates tightly with CMDB. That means you're not only seeing what assets you have, but also how they're interconnected to each other, what depends on which asset, and how the dependencies are going to affect each other as well to the services and systems they support. So if a server fails, we can take server as an asset, and if it fails, you can immediately understand the impact it would have on your business, what applications are going to go down, what databases are going to fail because of that server going down, and things like that. So from a business perspective, ham is what keeps your IT asset investments under control, avoiding unnecessary purchases and making sure that nothing disappears without a trace, because assets often get misallocated or misplaced or misused even, so that causes a harm to the company, and ham helps you prevent that. Ham or hardware asset management. So after hardware asset management, we have software asset management, or SAM. It's one of the main modules of ITAM. If ham was about managing physical devices, SAM is about managing the software world of your IT infrastructure. It keeps records on your licenses, subscriptions, even entitlements, and the actual usage across your organization of those specific softwares or licenses. With SAM in ServiceNow, you can see exactly which software is installed right now inside your devices, how many licenses are you entitled to, and also whether you are under licensed or over licensed. This is very crucial for compliance because software vendors love audits, and those audits can be very expensive for you if you're not prepared, if you don't have accurate data. It can cause you much harm in fines and breach of contracts, etc. But SAM isn't just about avoiding those penalties, it's also about saving money for your company. For example, if you discover that you have hundreds of unused licenses for different certain apps, you can reclaim them and finish them off, or you can reassign those licenses to other employees that are looking for, that need those. So instead of buying more, you can reallocate those and save your money and costs, and in turn, which would end up helping you increase your revenue as well. So ServiceNow SAM also connects to discovery data. So it's not just guessing about how many assets you own, how many softwares you own. It's actually pulling actual data and installation records, giving you a clear, trusted picture of your software landscape. So in short, software asset management helps you stay compliant with vendor agreements and other licenses, and get the most out of every dollar you spend on your software. So that was basically ITAM's software asset management. Next, we're gonna go to the Q&A session with Mr. Mahad.
Hi, Adan. Thank you for having me. So the first question I see on my screen is, how do you track and manage hardware assets in an organization? Yeah, so that's a really good question. Tracking and managing hardware assets starts with visibility and ends with control. So the key steps I use is discovery and inventory, where I use tools like ServiceNow Discovery, Intune, and some other tools to automatically detect assets in the network. Secondly, there is asset tracking. Every device gets a unique asset tag so that it can be linked to its record and can be managed easily. Thirdly, there is life cycle stages. So what we do is what we track from procurement, deployment, maintenance, and up till retirement. The first one is integration with the CMDB, like ensure asset data is tied to configuration items so that incidents and change are linked to the right devices. And then last but not the least, regular audits, like reconcile records with physical audits and automated scans so that you know what's in the inventory. So I'll give you for For instance, in a recent project, we implemented automated updates from procurement systems into ServiceNow. So the moment hardware was purchased, it was visible in the asset database, cutting down onboarding time for new assets by like 70%.
Thank you so much, Mahad, for the answer. Let's move on to the next question we have
Yep.
from Muhammad Tanial. The question he have is, can you explain the concept of asset normalization?
Okay, so I would say like asset normalization is essentially process of standardizing asset data so that it's consistent, accurate, and meaningful across the organization. Let's say you have 10 records for a laptop, and one says HP EliteBook 845G. The other one says HP EliteBook 840-5G. And the last one says like HP laptop. So technically, they are the same model. But if the data isn't normalized, the system would think that you have three different laptops. So, normalization involves standardizing naming conventions like brand, model, version, serial number that has to be same across all the assets. Then mapping to authoritative sources like such as vendor catalog. So if a device is the manufacturer of the device is HP or Apple, it has to be in its catalog. Then removing duplicates and correcting errors through the across the CMDB, and ensuring consistent categorization between the assets so that laptop always means the same thing in the CMDB. The benefit of all of this is that decision making becomes more accurate. So you can see exactly what's deployed. You can manage lifecycle replacements, negotiate better contracts with your vendors because you know exactly what you have.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is important to maintain your CMTB health as well with those normalization steps. So yeah, let's move into the next question with Muhammad Umar. How do you handle discrepancy in asset inventory?
Yeah, so discrepancies happen when there's like a mismatch between what's in the system and what's exist physically or virtually. So, how do I handle it? What I do is identify the gap, compare CMDB data against discovery scans or audit reports to see where you find the gaps. Then you go to categorize discrepancies so that missing assets in CMDB missing assets in CMDB but exist physically. Okay, you see there, like assets exist and then assets exist in CMDB but they are not physically in the warehouse. So wrong details, location, ownership, model, all of these things, you just categorize all those, like what um categorize on the basis of like what's going on in the inventory. Then you investigate the cause. Was it a human error, or process gap, or unauthorized removal of those assets? Um, Once we are done with all of those, we fix the CMDB records or mark asset for retirement or disposal if that's required. We improve processes such as like require check in and check out of those assets so we know like what's coming in, what's going out, if some of the assets are like replaced or like retired from our inventory. So on a real world note, I would say like I once found like 15% of our missing laptops were actually in storage because someone forgot to mark them as returned. So this is commonly known error across most of the organizations.
Absolutely. It is occur when you have multiple data sources as well. You may be having discovering from a discovery out of the box, or maybe you are getting from the transfer map, or maybe a
Right.
cloud infrastructure. So it happens, but you can also implement the IRE engine for the identification and reconciliation rules. So uh,
That's
uh,
really true.
manage all those assets. So yeah, moving to the next question. uh, Iqbal, the question is, how do you ensure compliance with asset management policies?
Okay, so compliance start with having clear documented policies, but the real work is in making them part of your daily operations. So the steps I take is define clear policies. Example, like every new device must be tagged before it is deployed. Then automate reinforcement, like build workflows so assets can't be deployed without required fields populated. Then you train the stakeholders, educate your IT staff, end users about their roles in asset management. And then audit quarterly. So quarterly checks to ensure like policies are followed, all your previous steps are being like carry on. And last one, it would be report to leadership. So you would get a dashboard showing all the compliance rates, exceptions, what's going on throughout your CMDB. So when policies are automated in the tools people already use, compliance becomes natural. So it's not in extra step whenever you're following the compliance.
Yeah, absolutely. It also depend on the organization, business need. Like you mentioned, the reports, it's also have some indicators and metrics according to the need of the output from the business side. So yeah, agree with
Right.
the policies. You make sure you have right. Yeah, the next question we have, Arslan Chaudhary, what are the risk of unmanaged IT assets?
So unmanaged IT assets are like uninvited guests. So they consume resources, create risk. You don't even know why they are there. Okay. So the risk includes like security vulnerabilities because unpatched or unknown devices are prime targets for cyber attacks. Then there's licensing penalties. So over or under licensing software can result in fines and added costs, just like Adan mentioned previously. Then there's financial waste, paying maintenance for unused or obsolete devices. So you don't want to pay those extra fines and fees. There's operational inefficiency because time wasted tracking those assets during incidents cannot be bought again. Then, last but not the least, would be data breaches because retired devices not properly wiped before disposal can cause a major data breach within the organization. So, I would end this with an example where there was an organization I worked with which discovered like 200 plus shadow IT devices after a network scan. These weren't just costing money, but they were storing sensitive data without encryption.
Mm.
So I think this is most of the time very ignored, but yeah, it's a major part of the ITAM life cycle.
Yeah, and also it gives a great threat to the cybersecurity as well.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, and the last question we have for the today, it's ITAM is expensive to implement as compared to the other competitors' tools.
Yeah, it depends. So it depends like how you weigh your organization security, okay, and like whatever tools you're bringing in, how many workforce are there for you to manage all of this. So I think it's a good investment for your organization to have ITAM so you can manage uh, from the very first stage to the very last stage of the item life cycle and manage your devices and assets through this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the question answers, Mahad.
No worries.
And uh, as well, thank you to the Adan for the presentation. It gives brief introduction about the asset management lifecycle and also different between the asset and the CIs. It was a great information. And any organization, who is implementing IT asset management with ServiceNow, ServiceNow is, giving you a key role to automate all your asset lifecycle management. You don't need to have to do all those stuff manually. Your team is automated. That is the big advantage why we, utilize the ServiceNow. So yeah, let's move on to the our strategic partner. Let me share you my screen as well today. I hope you guys can see my screen. Okay. So this is the OGMC website. Here you can look into the IT asset management books we have specifically for the asset management. And then also if you are looking for any other module or maybe any other technology of the books, you can look into the OGMC website and you can find the link in the YouTube section comment. As well as we have Architect RTDSG company integrated. We have different services in ServiceNow. We are providing ServiceNow administration, development, implementation, consultancy, support, and all these, ServiceNow trainings we have as well. And in the last, again, I will be, telling you the events we have upcoming for this month and the next month. It's on August 20 of the high impact project management office. They are just not on the service now, they are on the project management cybersecurity sessions we have. And thank you so much for joining today. And please keep watching and also subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.